Embiid loses it, hits the floor, trying to save it. Ball knocked around. Curry, he's got the angle and the bucket. And Embiid is down. Joel Embiid is down on the ground.
This will be the end of his night. He looks like he is in a great deal of pain here.
Tyrese Maxey, 46 points. 4-3, Maxey got it! 49 for Maxey. This for a 50-piece. Got it.
Yeah, honestly, when I found out Joel wouldn't be playing, I knew what happened to him. I was about to sit again. My ankle not 100%, but I was like, man, I'm not leaving my team out there. I got to go out there. We got to compete, get one dub at least on this road trip.
Hey, y'all. Today, of course, it's Matt Rogers again on the Honorable Mention podcast. Today, we have a familiar face, familiar voice, OJ Spivey from the Philadelphia Tribune, which is the longest-running African-American newspaper in the country. OJ, a lot going on right now. The news of the day being that reigning MVP Joel Embiid is diagnosed with a displaced flap in the meniscus in his left knee. Word from Shams is also that he's weighing rest or rehab or procedure. Rest/rehab or procedure, according to two sources. What are your thoughts on all of this? This thought of should they shut him down? Kendrick Perkins, of course, was on television the other day, and others have said shut him down, and others are more so thinking that he should keep going. Where are you on that?
Yeah, I'm a little stuck in between, only because we don't have a lot of information to make a determination one way or another, and even going one step further, none of us are doctors, so
right.
That makes it even more difficult. So everybody wants to, well, if you're a Sixers fan anyway, or if you're an NBA fan, you want to see all teams have all of their players and be play an optimal performance. The Sixers haven't really had that all year long, even when Embiid plays, but I'm kind of leaning towards maybe shutting him down, but either way, he's going to miss some time, and it's really a shame. It really sucks because, I've been tracking, as you know, I've been tracking Joel Embiid's season, and it's not only a great season. He wasn't only on track to win his second MVP in a row. I mean, this is an historic season. And he has elevated this game each year. I mean, I know, you bring the caveat in that, this hasn't commiserated into the playoffs. It hasn't, been accumulative. And, they get knocked out every year, seemingly by the Boston Celtics. But he's really had a historical season. For one, he was averaging 36 points per game. And right. He would have been the first center since Wilt Chamberlain to average at least 35 points a game in a single season. That hasn't happened in 60 years. So that's how remarkable that is. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he came close a couple times. I believe he averaged 34 one year, maybe 33 something another year. But also, too, even going back last year, with him winning his second consecutive scoring title and then getting the MVP, he would have been the first. He would have been the first true center to win a scoring title 3 years in a row.
It's incredible.
Yeah,
what he's doing right now is just crazy.
That's incredible.
He's shooting whatever he wants.
Right. And we're not just talking about your classic center. I mean, he's about as close to a classic center as you'll get in today's game, but you're still not talking about your classic center because he has an all-around game. I mean, he has a jumper, he can shoot the three, he has a fadeaway, he has a fall away. He can do whatever he can inside, take anybody off the dribble. And it's really integral to what the Sixers do, and any hopes that the Sixers would have had to maybe get past the second round, and me and maybe a few other writers were pretty confident this year, depending on the matchup, that they could finally surpass the second round, because he seemingly had his best supporting cast so far. And then you see Maxi's ascension, his evolution, being named an all-star this past week. So that was big too. But they're just a different team without him. And, they were shorthanded anyway. But it just really sucks overall. But I'm leaning towards him maybe having surgery, but only he knows. And, even if he gets rest and all that, and, tries to get it to heal on its own, with rest and rehab, you still know he's going to be ailing a bit. So,
yep. That's why Maxi's being called on. It just sucks for Maxi, because he's really he was on the right kind of glide path where he gets to come up being not expected to be the guy every night, and for the Sixers team it kind of thrusts Maxi maybe a little too fast, a little too quickly into that role. I mean, you never can create the perfect situation, especially, and what we do know about Joel Embiid now and the roster construction that a team has to do around Joel Embiid, you have to expect that he's going to miss a good 25 games. He may not, with the way that the league is setting this thing up, it doesn't seem like, it's a good bet that you're going to get to, he will even get a chance to get all NBA honors or get, MVP. So that's just the way that you got to, build your team. Whereas maybe you really do need another Batman. As the Eagles were talking about, they had 1 million Batmans. You really do need, you can't have a Robin. You need a Batman. You can't have a Scotty. You need a Kobe.
Yeah. And that rule sucks, by the way. I can't stand that rule. I mean, I know it was to appease the fan. I don't even say the fan. I know it was to appease television, their corporate sponsors. And I know there's millions of dollars on the line, just as far as, seeing your great superstars and everything. But I don't think it's really been a deterrent anyway. So, guys are hurt, guys are going to be out. That's it. And I want to add one more thing, Matt. Embiid was under tremendous pressure to get back out on that floor. If we flash back to the previous weekend, where he was ducking Denver. It ain't even about Jokic, it's about ducking Denver, I guess. So I thought that was pathetic too. And even the Denver reporter who had the effing audacity to question his character. And me, one of my cardinal rules in journalism, one of my cardinal rules is being a writer is, and I always tell young people this, work the story, but never ever become the story. So that's what I think what that Denver writer did. And it was just irresponsible for him to even question somebody's character. And I never question when anybody says they're injured, when anybody says they're hurt, until I'm proven otherwise. I always give them the benefit of the doubt that they are hurt. Because we have seen I've seen too many stories where a player has said that they've been injured and the team tells them that they're not. And it's cost them money. It's cost them their careers. It's cost them their reputation. You have NFL players who can't get benefits, even though that's going through legislation, that's going through litigation. You even have some NBA players out there who have struggled with injuries post. I mean, they have a better plan. Baseball players probably had the best, pension plan and with benefits and all. But and even some of the Sixers fans too, I thought it was pathetic when people suspected that, he's ducking somebody. I mean, this ain't fucking boxing, man.
and what's gonna happen? He's gonna lose. I mean, and then the talk was like the high altitude. He's out of shape. It's like just like any athlete. I mean, the guy is the league MVP,
right?
like the people saying that it's a bad look. Sure. I think
they're just upset and frustrated that he's injured, and they just don't know how to articulate that verbally.
Yeah. Well,
they just revert back to what other people say. And I guess I'm getting on a rant with like sports radio and all that BS and stuff, but they just listen to what other people say and they just try to interpret it. But it's in the worst way. So that's a whole nother story.
It's the story though. I mean, I think what you were saying earlier is the guy that you were saying a second ago, don't become the story to journalists. And that's a good cardinal rule, not one that's followed regularly.
Especially in this day and age, because, everybody has a blue check now, man.
That the easy way to explain that is people are buying them.
They're buying their coverage. They're buying their coverage in hopes that that'll result in access, and it never will. And the most dangerous thing about this, Matt, is the people who I see believe in these accounts, or believe in these people who have a microphone.
The AJ Brown is getting traded people,
or just,
those people.
I mean, they're just amplified voices where they say, "Oh yeah, you sound good on the radio." You have an opinion. What the biggest requirement to be a sports talk show host on a major radio station in the sports market? Have a strong opinion.
Yes.
It doesn't say shit about having a right opinion. Just have a strong opinion. That's actually in the job description.
Wow. Have a strong opinion. I mean, that's not hard to do for anybody.
You have to have knowledge of Philly sports, New York sports, Denver sports, but it's
not
almost
nuance,
in caps.
though. Nuance.
No shit about nuance, no context. Just have a strong opinion. We don't give a shit if it's right or wrong. Just stand out so you can get a reaction. Or maybe you can get a rise out of a freaking poll question, which are rigged.
Yeah,
you talk about elections being rigged. There's nothing more rigged than a poll question.
Yeah, you can pretty much book it on some of these, but I mean, it's kind of like it's like sports reality TV. It's fun if you have the time for it.
It's a push for entertainment, right?
Yeah. It's entertainment.
We also have to remember with ESPN, what are their call letters? It's Entertainment and Sports Programming Network. Entertainment is first, not sports. At one time, sports was first with ESPN, but they're living up to their name as much as they more than they've ever have. So,
wow.
And here's just one more thing. I know I'm ranting, but
keep going.
Here's one more thing. Okay, we'll put the poll up. Okay, should we trade AJ Brown?
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yes, we should trade AJ Brown. No, we shouldn't trade AJ Brown, right? So the fans vote and they say no. Overwhelmingly, 87% say no, we should not trade AJ Brown. What do the talk show hosts do? They go totally against what the people say, but they want them to call, and so they can tell them how wrong they are about wanting to trade AJ Brown, even though the poll tells them overwhelmingly, resoundingly, you shouldn't trade AJ Brown. That's sports talk for you.
I mean, that's the same BS that last year had people talking about DeAndre Hopkins being the Eagles' number 3, like in this previous last season. It's like, y'all don't understand the way NFL contracts are set up. If the Eagles were to try to even forget the minds,
forget what you have to give up to trade. Forget all that stuff. Forget where you had to move in the draft. Forget all the capital. Just make the trade because that sounds good, and we'll get a rise out of callers and even people who don't listen to us. Which I try to warn people all the day. Don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. You're falling right into these people, and they love it. You don't even have to listen, but just the engagement alone on the freaking poll question makes their show, makes their programming, period.
Well, that's some truth. That's a few truth bombs from OJ really quick. Before we get over to the Celtics, speaking of the Celtics, they're out here jacking up these threes. I mean, if I'm the Bucks, I mean, I didn't really think that the Sixers were really going to beat the Celtics this year.
Right.
Are you taking the Celtics? Or are you taking the field in the East? Just in the East.
Well, logic will tell you to take the Celtics, take the chalk. You would think that they'll get it together because they did look really bad against the Lakers the other night. But it's mid-season, sort of mid-season. So you kind of take that up. And I think people were just so surprised at how well the Lakers did, more so than how the Celtics did. Like unless you were a Celtics fan, they're a peculiar team, but they still I guess they still had the best record right now as we're speaking.
Absolutely.
But they made major moves. They got rid of Marcus Smart. They brought in Drew Holiday. You never know what you want to get some nights with Tatum and Brown. Are these guys certified all NBA, or are they just on the outside looking in? Some nights you never know. Sometimes they look like the best 1-2 punch in the NBA, and other nights it's like, oh man, when are these guys going to get it together? But I still think they're the best, but I think it's wide open. It's still, on another hand, could be wide open because it's all about matchups. They keep the number 1 seed, they still have a good shot to come out of the East.
Indiana, could Indiana get them?
They could,
or would it have to be Milwaukee?
Listen, I'm starting to like how the Knicks are looking, man.
I'm
really
looking at them right now,
and I think they're creeping up, man. With your background and everything, you have that dark horse candidate, that nobody thinks that can win or make noise in like a primary or something like that. The Knicks are that type of squad. They're that type of candidate. And I'll even take it politics before I'm mayor here in Philadelphia. No one thought she could win. Like, you had these big name, big
Mayor
money.
Parker.
Yes.
Historic figure.
First woman mayor, and 100th mayor, who happens to be the first woman mayor.
Wow.
And, she was down on the field. People had her at 5th, 6th. She ain't got no money. She ain't got, this has never happened before. It's unprecedented. You got multi-millionaire here, multi-millionaire here. You have a Hollywood star as another candidate, and then you have, a financial guru candidate, and she just shot right up. And that's what I see about the Knicks right now, man.
They're well built. They can go 7 deep, and it doesn't really hurt them.
Yeah, and you throw in the coaching with Thibodeau. I would think by now that those young guys on the Knicks will probably tune Thibodeau out, because that's kind of happened over his career. But they obviously they believe in him, and also getting
like a college coach,
right? And also picking up Anunoby. So
it's a great move.
It's a great move. Gave him more size, gave him more defense, more agility, and Jalen Brunson, man. Listen,
I got a cop to it. I didn't think Jalen Brunson was this. I didn't. I'm just gonna be honest. I thought he was a good player, but I didn't know he could be the best player on a team that could be a legitimate playoff team. I gotta give him his flowers. I was wrong.
He's on a perfect squad where he could shine. I knew he had that in him, but I just think he New York is just perfect for him. So
okay.
And the Big Apple loves their guards. So time they have a great guard, he's perfect for them. But
all 48 days of Linsanity.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I don't even know. I'm surprised they don't really have a nickname for him yet in New York. But as long as he's healthy, And, with his supporting cast, if they can stay healthy overall, I would just say watch out for the Knicks, because that's my dark horse. And you know how excited those fans got last year.
They seem to be well positioned to be able to make moves, even if they don't get all the way there this year.
Right.
Next year, be able to make a big move. And I think it's finally now become that attraction. I think this year they're kind of playing with house money at this point.
Yeah, lots of traction. And going back to Milwaukee real quick, I mean, you got to see how it's going to play out with Doc Rivers now, because I'm still trying to find out what happened with Adrian Griffin. There has to be more under the surface. It has to be more. You had to peel the onion more.
They lost faith that I went back and listened to interviews. They were throwing that guy under the bus. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it had to be, if that's the case, it had to be that much worse behind the scenes, because you don't pull a trick. At the time they fired Griffin, only Boston had a better record in the NBA.
Right.
They were tied for second in the NBA with the best record. So, I would love to coach. I would love to have a record like that with a coach that maybe you can't stand. It always goes back to winning with somebody you hate rather than lose with somebody you love. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out with that.
The public explanation at first. Oh, go ahead.
Now, I don't know if Doc is the answer. If that doesn't work out, if Milwaukee don't get to the finals, what was the coaching change for?
Do you think that they thought that they wouldn't even get out of the second round if they didn't get rid of him? Is that if they told you that as a journalist?
Perhaps, but now you could probably say with a new coach, okay, he's still trying to. Sometimes it takes a year or two to get your system in.
Okay, I can hear that.
That takes time. Not half a season, but again, it must have been really bad. But if you make this drastic a change and you bring in someone like Doc Rivers, Mr. 3-1, and what was he even last year? 3 games to 2?
Yes, 3 games to 2. Had him at home.
Yeah.
Had him at home.
I was
had him right where you wanted him.
I was in the building for games 5 and 6. And let me tell you, but if that goes down in Milwaukee, listen, those owners are going to be paying 3 coaches.
Doc is done. I mean, this is the last stop on the train.
You would think, but the NBA loves Doc. I mean, he's a good soldier. Otherwise, not in Philly, not in LA, maybe still in Boston, maybe, but because that's where he won his championship. But Milwaukee has to win, and even more so, this is going to fall on Giannis, which is kind of crazy because he's already won a championship. But the worst thing you don't want to be labeled as a coach killer. So what is it? What is that blank or bust? How far, what is the automatic firing for Doc if they don't get out of the second round, or what? They have to get to the conference finals, or they need to go to the finals. What? Well, mind you, I don't think that they will fire him because that would just look so bad on the organization, on the ownership.
Okay.
But if they don't, why did you make the coaching change? Because Griffin could have did that.
Got to the second round.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Kind of tells me, kind of those things that, my mother would teach me. It's like, okay, well, I could have did that. Or, you could have. Or
I could do all bad all by myself.
I was gonna say we're gonna get into the relationships again. Yeah, I could be on the struggle bus by myself. We don't need two people on the struggle bus. Both of us don't need to be broke.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly right. More of this on the other side of the break, guys. We'll be talking about the Philadelphia Eagles and another team in the city. 1 second.
There was a lot of people, and I think even looking back ourselves, that realized that we could have potentially been a little bit more creative, I guess, offensively. And I think Kellen will bring a lot of that. He did it in Dallas. He did it, I'm sure, especially in the Chargers, even though I didn't watch him that much. You know, everybody wants to bring up the Ezekiel Elliott snapping the ball type thing. That creativity didn't work in that play, but it's not always going to work. And I think, he's been one of the best offensive minds in the game. I'm excited to see what he brings to the offense and how it evolves with him at the helm as the offensive coordinator.
All right, so we're back. The Philadelphia Eagles went and hired 2 new coordinators. Last year, folks were not too happy with the performance of Brian Johnson. Sean Desai had some very, very good performances in hindsight. Matt Patricia came in. I don't think he had a signature performance. I guess until the last drive of the Seahawks game, had a pretty decent game. They bring in 2 new guys, Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore. Let's talk about the defense first, because I think that's what, the people who care about the Philadelphia Eagles, they think about this as a defensive football team. What do you think? The Eagles get their guy. I think that's the feeling, is that this is the guy that they've wanted. So how do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, he was supposed to be the guy for this past season.
Yes.
Not 24. He's supposed to be the guy for 23, but we all know how that happened.
Delayed gratification.
Kept his job offer close to the vest, which blocked Fangio, and then he went to Miami. And I'm pretty sure Fangio at this point wishing he maybe shouldn't have taken a Miami job, but I think Fangio is a good hire. It's a safe hire. I'm not necessarily enamored with it, but he's a NFL lifer. He's a mastermind of, if you're going to play the Fangio defense, you might as well get the man himself, the namesake himself. So he's going to stabilize this defense, keep them from getting embarrassed, I think. Because they were embarrassed way too many times.
Absolutely,
especially during that that 1-6 record to end the season. Having
Kyler Murray beating his chest in South Philadelphia, coming back, running for on 4th down, it was an embarrassment.
Yeah, that was most embarrassing for me out of like watching all the games. I mean, San Francisco, you take that on the chin.
Right.
You see the road games, Dallas, and then Seattle. We may not be having any of these conversations if they beat Seattle. But, it's complicated to why we got to this point. And just going back to Fangio real quick, he'll stabilize the defense, keep them from getting embarrassed. He's going to restore order, so to speak.
Restoring order, yes.
So he's going to put them back to at least being an average defense. You can count on that just by his presence. Probably he's going to get him a couple players, but it's still going to be relying on a pass rush, and you have to double down and dig deep and invest heavily in Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis's success as far as getting
getting linebackers, because once they eat up the double teams, somebody's got to get in there and fill the correct gaps. That's how these things work in the game of football.
Right. I'm glad you mentioned that. And I think with linebackers, they're not going to really have a choice because even though Nakobe Dean was a 3rd-round pick, he's a guy that they selected. He's the guy that they gave the green dot to. So he's going to be there next year.
Cunningham. So you're thinking Cunningham is back too?
I don't think so, because it's Cunningham was solid for most of the season. Yeah, but he's a free agent, and if Fangio is going to be successful in his defense, they're going to have to go out and get a linebacker.
Coverage linebacker.
Some people are
coverage guy though.
Some people are
Cunningham's a thumper.
Right. Some people are thinking that, you get a linebacker in a draft. No, that's Nakobe Dean. That's your linebacker. That's your draftee. Because they're not going to take a linebacker high. But I think they're going to go out and get someone. Does
the Giants paid? Oh, go ahead.
Does a Roquan Smith fit in this defense? Because if he does in any way, that's somebody you go out and get to make a splash.
Roquan have fit a lot of places. Yes,
right, exactly. Well, you make him fit. He's a free agent. Right. He's like the number one guy on my radar. So if the Eagles are serious about improving his defense, you have to get that type of guy.
Look at the people who are still playing.
Right.
The Final Four, people who were still playing, they invested in that position.
And I love it, Matt, because defense has now equalized the game.
Yes.
And if I'll have to look back and check, and somebody can fact check for me. I believe scoring was down overall this year in the NFL, and that's because of defense.
Yes.
That's because you have linebackers who can run and hit. How he even mentioned that in his end-of-year press conference, having guys that can run and hit.
Come on. It's basic.
For me,
tackling and the will of a man to go through another man.
Right. You talk about what do they always say in football? It's the century-old cliche, blocking and tackling. Yes. When you talk about defense, you got to be able to run and hit. That's my thing. That never goes out.
It's foundational.
Yeah, being able to run and hit. So they have to get a linebacker in here who can do all those things. So if they're serious, they'll do that. But again, Fangio, he's going to come stabilize and restore order to this defense, because I think that's what Jeffrey Lurie was most embarrassed about.
Are you the only season that comes to mind in my, because I'm a younger man by just a year or two than you, OJ, of course. So the most embarrassing year was when the Eagles, the 2014, before this season for me, the 2014 Eagles, they started, I think they started 9-3 and missed the playoffs with that was the Mark Sanchez. Right. For this season, which one are you going with? Mine, I gotta say that this one is more embarrassing. Or do you have another one, maybe even more, that's like a bigger collapse?
I mean, I go back, much further than that. But if we're talking about, the last decade or two, I would say so. That this year was more egregious, because this was more historic. You go back to that 2014 team. Nobody really expected them to do much, especially with Mark Sanchez at quarterback. So, the expectations were fairly low considering. But you look back at this year, they were the first team since the 86 Jets to start 10-1 and then lose 7 games, or even further,
not even win the division.
To win the division. They were the first team since the 86 Jets not to do that. To go 10-1, and then how is it humanly possible to not win your division after you go 10-1?
You got Kyler Murray coming back.
The division was given to them for several weeks.
Yes.
Where all they had to do was win
one game.
And you had to do it. Okay. And we kept looking at it. It's okay, yeah. You're saying in the press box, okay, yeah, they got to win today. They'll win today. They got to win today to go to the division. Then we'll figure out,
we still don't know who this team is, but they're going to win today.
Yeah,
This won't mean that much to me. I'll write it off, but they're going to win today. Was the story.
And I thought more than anything that they would beat Arizona, but
come on.
It just didn't. I even thought that they were going to beat Arizona when they started out slow, but Sidney Brown ran back that interception.
Yes.
But here we are. But real quick, Kellen Moore, I'm okay with him. And this is far beyond like fandom, because I know say, oh yeah, he's a Cowboy, everything like that, even though he just came from LA.
I'll take Micah Parsons too.
yes. But I think he'll be fine with the passing game. I do think this is a little tricky with how he's going to work with Jalen. But I will say that for fans who expect the Eagles to run the ball more, that's not going to happen.
No.
That's not going to happen. And forget what you saw at Dallas and everything. Kellen Moore is probably the perfect guy. I won't say the perfect guy. He's probably an ideal guy for what the Eagles want to do with passing. Yes. But you'll probably see more motion and everything. And they had to bring back the RPO. Some experts are saying that teams, like we were just talking about linebackers, playing well, and they were possibly taking away the RPO options this year with a lot of teams, but they got to bring that back in some form. And they worry too much about Jalen's health this year, and they have to get out of it. They got to let Jalen Hurts be Jalen and just let it ride. Because if you let Jalen be Jalen this past year, they won the division at least.
I mean, the one of the biggest things I talk about when I talk about a football team is the backup quarterback. Marcus Mariota this year, I think, in the back of your mind, you got to be able to, as a team, when the 53 go out there, or however many can dress, they need to feel that if Jalen goes down for the back half of this game, that we are even, or that the game isn't automatically over. And I think that has a lot to do with it. I think they were trying to coach, they were trying to scheme health.
Yeah, you can't scheme health. It's like you being a player, you being an athlete, and you're going out on the field just hoping that you don't get hurt. That's a no-no. Because if you're worried about getting hurt, you're going to get hurt. Because, the collisions find you, the bad part of the turf finds you, the turf monster finds you, all those times, that lets me know that you saw that early in the season, but they were able to get away with it because you saw Jalen getting the ball, or, it might be a broken play and he just goes down.
Yep.
And Sirianni even admitted it that, we wanted him to preserve his health. But you can't play football like that. You can't. And what it does also is it makes the defense easier to scheme against you.
Yes. Because Jalen's not, they're running this RPO action. He's not running. We know that he's not running. So don't even, it kind of checks off a couple boxes for the defense, like a Fred Warner when you're playing against San Francisco or these other good teams.
And I'm glad you brought up San Francisco, because all you had to do is just look back at the 2022 NFC Championship game when the Eagles did knock out Brock Purdy. But what no one talks about in that game is how they had that entire San Francisco defense confused. It was similar to what Detroit did.
Yes.
Of running the football.
Yes.
Because you look at what they did with Kenny Gainwell, with what they did with Miles Sanders in that championship game last season. There was an NFL Films, they spotlighted this. And I remember with the RPO, and they singled out Fred Warner, who's, all pro, all world. And he is again this year. With what the Eagles did with the RPO last year was when Jalen received the ball and you saw he and Miles Sanders next to each other. Fred Warner was frozen for at least 3 seconds.
Yes.
He was basically still in his stance for a good 3 seconds.
Because you have to respect it.
He did not know where to go. All pro Fred Warner, So they had to get back to that type of offense. So what is that going to look like under Kellen Moore? People are talking about, all this motion, everything. What are you going to do with the running game? What are you going to do with RPOs? That's going to be my initial concern, because they had to bring that back in some form if you want to get the most out of Jalen. And like I said to you before, Matt, Jalen threw the ball more than he ever has in his life.
Yes.
Season. And it was way too much.
Well, they were also like 1 yard dump offs, to Dallas Goedert right next to Lane Johnson on a tight end screen.
Right.
Or I mean that was technically a throw, but it's like he's not getting, and he did have most yard distance to target this season. I don't want to undersell as if he was just dinking and dunking all season, but some of these throws were just they were design losers.
Yeah, it was a scheme. Yeah, it was the scheming. So that goes back.
That falls on Nick too, because Nick took it. He said they were running his offense. So
right.
Kellen, clean it up.
And this is why I hope Brian Johnson does get an offensive coordinator job, because we'll really get to see the real Brian Johnson. How much was he handcuffed by Nick Sirianni, and is he a good offensive coordinator? So I know he's had a few interviews. Nothing has worked out yet, but I hope he falls on his feet as an offensive coordinator, because I really want to see the real Brian Johnson, because in my opinion, I think way too much fell on him. It was a collective organizational failure. And this city, Matt, this fan base, we all have to, we all need a villain. You all have to identify a villain, identify a suspect, arrest them, and convict them.
We're acting real cowboyish. You know what? All of this is very cowboyish, folks. This is the collapse in all of it, and then
you have to have somebody
scapegoat somebody. This
so
cowboy behavior.
To have somebody to blame. It has to be him. It has to be either him. Has to be him. Somebody got to take the fall. And that's not
sorry. It won't be popular, but it's true.
Yeah, that's not all. That's not always fair, and a lot of times it's just narrow-minded. So
So when we go back out there in the summer for Eagles training camp and watch the guys run around, are we going to see Julio Jones out there? Do you expect to see Julio Jones?
Probably not. And my thought is, I really believed, and I might have mentioned this before, but I really believe that they underutilized Olamide Zaccheaus.
Yes.
He's a better wide receiver than how they utilized him.
Yes.
You saw some flashes from him. And why they didn't put him in motion, why they didn't have him in as a hot read.
Right.
I just hope that, we probably won't see Julio Jones because, he doesn't have much left. He just doesn't. And you just hope that you don't have Quez is not going to be here because his contract's up. So, but I would love to see. It's going to be hard to get a legit number 3 in here. I got to see what the free agent list looks like, because the Eagles do have so many needs, especially on defense. But if he doesn't ask for a lot, I think Zaccheaus, or Oz as everybody calls him, I think he would be an ideal threat across the middle.
Some of the best plays of the season last season were throws from Jalen to OZ.
Yeah,
in the Bucks game, the crosser, the one in the Bills game, where
I really like him. He worked hard in camp, worked hard in practice, and everything. I believe he deserves another shot to be the Eagles' third receiver, and you'll probably be able to get him on the cheap. I believe he's a free agent, but
it was a 1-year deal,
right? So you'll be able to get him on the cheap. He's not going to command a lot of money elsewhere.
You still feeling like they gonna give it a try to bring Swift back?
They should, but and people aren't gonna like this either. I like Swift, but I thought the offense ran better with Sanders.
Wow. Do you think that's Sanders or you think that's coordination?
And I think that was Sanders. I just think that I just think that the offense flowed better. And that's no knock on Swift. That was, for me, that was like, if it ain't broke, don't break it. You know, everybody says don't fix it.
Getting
but
Sanders
broke,
out of
don't
there.
break it. And again,
you call it fixing it and you break it.
Right. And I had talked to Sanders in the last year. Last couple games, like, NFC Championship.
Because you could tell
playoffs,
when he blew kisses in the NFC Championship.
He wanted to stay in Philadelphia badly. And he was not going to command a lot of money, too. It was almost like the TJ Edwards thing.
Exactly.
But what are you going to so I'm past that now. That's water under the bridge. So what are we going to pay Swift? We're going to bring him back. But Swift deserves a raise too. Because he showed that
he made a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So that's incentive. So that's on your resume right there. I'm a Pro Bowl running back. And he probably wouldn't have beat McCaffrey for the rushing title. But if he wasn't utilized more, he could have had 1,300 yards easy.
And he can handle the load. He handled the load whenever there was load to be given.
He stayed healthy He stayed healthy for the first time in his career, even though he was underutilized. But it just all depends on how much he's going to ask for. But he has earned the right to ask for Miles Sanders money, if not more. And you can't blame him. And I know there's going to be some type of campaign saying, oh yeah, Swift is asking for too much. Players always ask in the eyes of fans and some dumbass media here and stuff. You can't
compare it to what you make as a
it's like, oh yeah, he's not worth that. He's asked for too much.
Sure.
Same way Miles Sanders earned his raise.
Right.
DeAndre Swift has earned his. And you have to respect that if someone else gives him the money. But that's going to be even a bigger problem if they don't re-sign Swift, because who's out there that you're going to sign as a free agent? Because Kenny Gainwell can't handle the load. Who you going to get as a free agent? I don't think it's a great running back draft, unless they
diamonds in the rough like Kenny Gainwell was.
Yeah, I guess they do maybe do a bargain basement thing, get somebody in the third or fourth round. They do have the picks to do it. And even just with the draft, you can almost count on they're either going to get an offensive lineman or they're going to get a edge rusher. You can count on that.
Right. That's what they do.
Yeah.
That's how they build the team every year. I mean, what happened with Penny? I mean, he ended up just getting nothing. No carries. I mean, he just fell out of favor.
Yeah, that's all the more reason why re-signing Swift is going to be critical, because he's still a mystery. The only thing that I heard, and this wasn't even confirmed, that Penny just wasn't good at picking up the blitz or picking up the offense or something along those lines. But that was never confirmed. Or I couldn't confirm it. That's the only thing that I could put my finger on. But even though they're not going to run the ball, you have to have somebody in this position. So that's probably the most intriguing off-season offensive move that the Eagles will have.
Absolutely. So before we go, OJ, if Dombrowski's willing to go and purge into that bank account a little more and add on to this Phillies team, he's tired of it. He's sick and tired. He's going to do what he's got to do. what would you like to see him do to add to this Phillies team?
Well, I don't think you're going to see anything drastic or anything different with the starting lineup. I just think it is what it is. And you just hope that Bryce Harper can stay healthy and he can play maybe 145, 150 games at first base. So you want to count on that. Obviously, they couldn't move Castellanos. I thought that was going to be tough. That was going to be tough. You have another year, Schwarber. I think the key is Rojas. I believe he should start center field. You just got to let that kid grow.
Please. Let him learn how to hit. Bryson Stott was just struggling at the dish. But that wasn't too long ago, folks.
Yeah, and everybody talks about, Rojas can't hit and everything. Well, they still hit under 200 as a team this past offseason.
Schwarber, they hit under 200.
And they hit
about the park.
And when they lost to the Astros in the World Series, why did they lose? Rojas wasn't even here yet. They still batted under the Mendoza line.
Come on.
They had one of the worst batting averages in World Series history as a team.
You got no hit at home. Where was Rojas?
Right. And that was part of it. Right. That was part of it. But yeah, you just got to let the kid play. And, you just hope he'll get it because he's too valuable defensively. And if he can hit just a little bit, that's who you put at the top.
I need Rojas to be a 233 hitter. I need him to steal me 40 bases.
If he can bat
12 home runs.
If he could get into the 230s, they'll be in good shape. But going back to your original question, Matt, I believe Dombrowski's biggest move this year, he has to have a right-handed bat with power that can come off the bench. He has to have a power hitter in that dugout.
A lot of lefties. Yeah.
Yeah. So the de facto Reese Hoskins, who, people felt like, he couldn't play first base, but you really got to get a guy in that's really like a DH and just say, hey, we're struggling tonight. We got runners at first and second with 2 outs. It's the bottom of the 7th or, top of the 8th. We need this guy to come in and slug and hit one out the park or at least give us a double.
Right.
They got to find out who that guy is. But there's not a lot out there. But, that could be something that you see in June or somebody that they pick up at the deadline. But I believe pretty much because of where they're at financially, this is pretty much who you're going to see. But it's all about Bryce staying healthy.
And you feel good about them making it all the way if they can get Bryce all season?
All the way saying World Series?
Yeah, all the way to the parade.
No, I still think they'll be one of the best wild card teams. It's just hard to beat the Braves in the regular season because their pitching between their pitching and their hitting, that just works perfectly during the regular season. But again, it just depends on who they get as far as that extra bat or, that extra power off the bench. I think their bullpen is going to be key as well. And I thought their best offseason move was re-signing Nola. We talked about that ad nauseum last year.
Absolutely.
But I think that was their best offseason move because look at it now.
You can't replace that.
Yeah, it was not a great free agent starting pitcher market. So it was incumbent of them. And I try to tell people that all the time. Oh yeah, he don't want too much money, this, that, and the third. You can't find a start. They didn't have a fifth starter. So why would you get rid of your second starter?
Yeah. Unless you're going to really be trusting Christopher Sanchez.
I mean, he's your de facto fifth starter, which is fine. But, fifth starters are interchangeable. But who is going to be your second starter? I don't think you're just going to move up Taijuan Walker, even though he pitched well for the most part. You're not going to move up
workhorse, but he was getting tagged.
Yeah, but you're not going to move. You're not going to move up Ranger Suarez. So neither of those guys are someone who I envisioned. I don't think the Phillies would envision to be their second starter anyway. So they just had to re-sign one.
Yeah. Wow. More on that another time. OJ, thank you for making time. If you liked what you heard, people who are listening, please go rate and subscribe. Give OJ a follow. The universal handle is OJ Philly. And it's OJ Spivey, the journalist, over on Facebook. That's right, OJ?
That's correct. And I'm on Threads as well. Getting better with Threads. Bear with me.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the transition. It's the new world of all these. And then they got the Fediverse. People are being able to have their stuff read on Threads from other. It's all interesting, fascinating world we're living in.
Yeah, that's the one that I have to. That's the one that I have to try to master. So I'll work on it.
Thank you all so much for listening. We'll be back soon another time. Thanks.
I don't know how a day gets any better than being named to your first All-Star team and then going for a career-high 51. Put this day and night in a nutshell for me.
Oh, man, it's been a great night. I mean, it's been wonderful. It's funny. I'm trying to watch the selection or whatever, and I can't even. My mom and Joel, they keep FaceTiming me. I can't even watch the selection. I don't even know if they said my name or not.